damn it, not again. Oh, hey, I'm Wyatt.
And I'm Carla.
And we're the host of the new podcast, Come Trip With Us.
Stay off the weed.
No, not like that. I'm talking about road tripping. You know, experiencing the open roads, scenic outlooks, cityscapes, mountain views. I want to take you on a journey like no other. Thinking about road tripping? Dreaming of traveling the land? There's nothing like it. And I can't wait to share my experiences with you. Buckle up. Who knows where this road could take us? Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on our first ever podcast. This is Trip With Us. I'm Wyatt.
And I'm Carla. We are going to be talking about traveling, kind of in general, experience, stories, do's and don'ts.
Right, and then, hopefully, you can learn from our mistakes, and that way eventually you guys can go, when you go traveling, when you go road tripping, you'll know what not to do, hopefully.
Preferably not die. That is our main goal every time we travel.
Right, not to die, and then, we try to stay as safe as possible, but, sometimes there's...
Hiccups. Hiccups. We'll call them hiccups.
Barriers.
We didn't really start traveling till, I think, our first trip was when we freshly got out of high school. So...
Yeah, we went to, I think, South Dakota a few years back.
By the way, horrible. Horrible experience.
Yeah, it was terrible. That was, that's kind of what we mean by do's and don'ts. Maybe if you're going to go camping part of your trip, maybe, bring tent poles.
That was not my fault. Let me remind you here. Let me establish something here for everybody to understand. Wyatt Joe is an Eagle Scout, okay? Eagle Scout, right? Everybody's like, wow, Eagle Scout, oh my God, what is it? I don't know. But an Eagle Scout should know how to make a fire. We got there. It was raining, pouring. I wasn't just like light drizzle. It was just pouring. And we couldn't build a tent because I did forget the tent poles. I thought it came in there. I don't know what happened.
No, she literally told me, don't worry about the tent. I got it. And then we get there and no tent poles. So I don't know. There's really no way to set it up. You're sitting here trying to maneuver, MacGyver it, but no chance. No chance of that.
Yeah, no. And that was my bad. That was my bad. Okay?
Right.
And then we got... it was just pouring, and that was the really downside to everything. We found a great spot. It was a beautiful spot. It was kind of secluded.
Yeah, up the mountain a little bit, so nice area.
And we could not start a fire. No, not we. Wyatt, Eagle Scout, reminding you all, he could not start a fire. We had a Girl Scout log. I brought a Girl Scout log. I went above and beyond.
That got wet, let's be honest. It got wet.
Above and beyond. And brought a Girl Scout log. Okay?
A wet Girl Scout log.
Whatever. Okay. I had the starter idea because I was like, no, Wyatt will create fire from anything. Let me just bring this for safe precaution. Couldn't even use that. Okay? That was the first mistake. That was our big no-no. We didn't have a fire. We didn't have a tent. The idea of putting it, over the tree?
We tried to, tie it to the tree and, maybe, do, I don't even know what we were thinking. It was...
we weren't thinking. That's the thing. And then that definitely failed. So we actually ended up going into town, which was 45 minutes.
It was a drive for sure.
And got a new tent from Walmart. We were like, what's the cheapest little thing that we can squeeze in?
Some $20, $25 tent, which we still have. It's been, at least
with the tent
5 or 6 years. We don't really use that tent because, we've moved on to bigger and better things, but
yeah, it's definitely a good tent there. $20. And then that trip in general, it was just chaotic. I don't think we really planned for it, and that was the biggest. And we learned a lot about ourselves, to be honest, how much I can endure, how much I really did love him, because that was well tested. When I was sitting, and hold on. We did not have utensils. We didn't have bowls. We did bring this, army milk. I don't know why we didn't just, I don't know. Remember that milk?
That milk was good. It just doesn't expire. What's wrong with that?
Okay. As someone who did not go camping very much growing up, I did not know that there was a milk that did not expire. Whatever. Army milk, that's what I called it. I couldn't even have that. We had a little bit of syrup. I couldn't have that. So I had to make... We did have foil. We did have tin foil,
yeah.
That was great. And I had to make a bowl out of tin foil. I remember sitting there, and it was pouring with, like, this tent that was obviously very cheap. and it was raining inside. I mean, that trip in general was like our big.
That was a wake-up call.
Yeah, it was a big wake-up call. Not to mention, my contact ripped in my eye. I've been wearing contacts for many years, never had happened. And it ripped in my eye.
And guess who didn't bring a backup?
I didn't have glasses, okay? I wore contacts all the time. I didn't think
She hasn't had glasses for like years until then.
Yeah, and we ended up having to get glasses on this little 3-day trip.
They're great. They were huge. They looked like freaking ginormous goggles. They were great.
I don't know.
Great glasses.
And then we tried, right? We tried to go hiking. Mind you, we didn't have a fire that night. I mean, it was cold. I was shivering. I couldn't see for like 7 hours while they were making my glasses, like emergency glasses, at Walmart. So at the end of this, if you're learning anything, go to Walmart for anything because you'll find it there.
Right. Walmart is a safe place. You'll find that is, a common theme when you need something.
But we went hiking. We're like, let's go hiking. Let's try to make this something. Because right now it was really just a mess. And I wore sandals, so that tells you a lot.
It was so. Remember, it just rained, and apparently this area had just gone through like a little bit of a mudslide too. So like a lot of the past bridges were out.
Right. Oh man.
So we hiked probably a good. I'd say it was at least a good 30 minutes. We were hiking.
My legs were killing me.
And by the time we get out of there, we're all completely coated in mud. We find this lookout. We go to this top. This lookout. We hike to the top of this little lookout tower, and right as we're getting at the lookout, we look over, and we see this great sunset.
I mean, it was a beautiful sunset. That is something that I always even remember now. Like, it was the most gorgeous sunset you can imagine. I mean, the colors were just magnificent. I've never seen a sunset so beautiful like that.
It was incredible. I mean, honestly, that's probably the moment that we realized that we really like traveling together. Is when, we went through all this crap.
I mean, we were covered in mud. Like, I was sliding. We were sliding down. And I'm afraid of heights. I thought there was heights there. Maybe not. Maybe there wasn't. But I was well enough sliding through. And I think at that sunset, we were like, okay, we're not going to break up.
We're going to be fine. Yeah,
we're going to be all right. I don't hate him.
We go through all that mess, barely have any food in our stomachs, and we go and we see this sunset, and I think we realize that it's going to be all right.
Not even a fire. Okay, now someone in like the other tent next to it. Now this is important. This is important because I want you guys to understand the dread, the horrible thing that we experienced. I'm sitting there. There was no food, right? Like I was eating out of tinfoil. I was probably eating tinfoil.
Okay, we had Casey's Pizza at one point, so
I was gonna starve. Yeah, I'm glad we did. Which, by the way, was also a drive. Anyway, we had no fire. I was getting rained on, and I look over. Okay, so here's my Eagle Scout telling me, no, it's just not possible. There's, you can't make a fire here because it's, it's so rainy. No one can have a fire. I look over. Okay, kid you not. I look over. This person next to us had the most mind-blowing fire. Like, it was colorful.
It was okay.
No, it was not okay.
Like a 2.
It was not a 2. It was like an 11 out of 10. This fire was grand. Like, just blowing. Like, I could feel the heat from me. And I was almost like, how are they doing it? They were having Chinese takeout. And I was like,
From where? Who knows? Because
I don't even
there's
know.
Nothing even in the area. So
no, I had no idea where they got that, to be honest. But I was like, Eagle Scout. Okay. Very questionable.
Okay, fire building was never my strong suit as an Eagle Scout.
No, we all of us know that was not it. But I think even through that, like, we made it through. And
right, we're still here today, so we've survived.
I know, right? Questionable. But no, I mean, it was a good experience, and we did have a lot of fun on that trip. It was like a 3-day thing. It was something so short, but we really learned a lot about traveling and preparing, essentially. And we're not really people that prepare for anything. When we go traveling, we just kind of pick a direction and we pack our shit and
we just go.
Yeah.
Even our last trip, we literally just chose a direction, got all of our stuff into the car, and we just drove. And we ended up in some crazy areas, some crazy places. We ended up at, I think our last trip, the farthest we went down was Destin, Florida. So, some really nice areas in Florida, and we just drive down there, end up there, and, see where the wind takes us type of thing.
I think for us, we learn a lot about ourselves when we travel, and we do get tested. Like that first trip, I mean, I did question. I was like, is he really an Eagle Scout? That was the biggest question. No, the biggest question I think was like, could we really do this, and can we do this long term? Because it was, it wasn't a big trip, but it was a trip where we were alone and we kind of had to like fend for ourselves. So it did make us kind of open our eyes and realize it's possible and we can do it.
And I think it really solidified to us, now all these years later, we'll look back on that trip and we're talking about, I mean, we've told you, it was a terrible trip. In reality, everything went terrible. And I think at the end of the day, we still had lots of fun. In reality, it was a great trip for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great trip. I was hungry, malnourished, probably. I'm just kidding. I was not malnourished, but I definitely, when I got home, I was like scarfing down. I mean, like as we were driving, I was like, give me the pizza, because it was just that intense. I mean, intense. So that was the big thing. And then I think we've had trips along the way where we've learned and tested our limits. I think after that trip, we started having bigger trips. We've flown, we got on a plane ride.
Yeah, we've gone as far as Miami, Florida, and New York City. We've been to Las Vegas a couple times now. We've driven all the way to California twice.
Which that ride, by the way, was also, it was one of our first, driving such a long distance. We took a month out. We decided, we were going to a concert. I don't know if you guys are familiar with
the EDC, Electric Daisy Carnival.
Something. And they have, it's crazy. The setup is, just a next level, really.
Some 7, 8, 9 stages at some point, and it's a lot of fun, and it kind of gives us a direction to go, and from there, we just kind of explore. I think it's really where we go with that.
Our first time doing that, it was actually our first time even going to this concert, and it was a big thing for us. It was a big concert. We've never gone to a concert, I think, at that size together. It was a big NASCAR race car with 7, 8 stages, and every stage is playing, has different DJs.
Like different styles of music a lot of times even too.
Right.
Like you can go to one stage and it's
like techno, and then you have dark tech. Just a lot of variety, which was great. And we took that month out.
Yeah.
We took that month out, and we said, let's just drive there, and we'll figure it out. And lucky for us, I don't know how we did that, to be honest, how you got that deal with the car. We got a rental.
Yeah, we found that when we do our long road trips, or at least for this current moment, rental cars seems to be the way to go, because we don't want to put those miles on our cars necessarily.
Right. Yeah.
And then if something happens to the car, we'll stop and we'll stop at another car, car rental place, and we'll just swap the cars out.
Right.
Which is a lot easier than having to go to a mechanic shop when her Jeep goes down, because my Taurus, undefeated, never lose.
That's a big lie. Let's bring it back to that. My car, let me just tell you guys, my car is strong. My little Jeep, my white Jeep, I have a little white Jeep. And it's not the Jeep you're thinking. It's not like that nice.
It's
a
like
Liberty,
a Jeep
okay?
Liberty, yeah,
It's a Liberty. It's not anything crazy. But my car makes it through. I mean...
The Taurus is tougher, I'm just saying.
Questionable.
We're not here to talk about cars, because,
Questionable. But we did end up getting a really nice car. And that's actually one of our stories that we learned the very hard way, the very scary way, actually. We ended up getting, I don't know how we got that.
I think we got a Dodge Charger, like a 16 Dodge Charger.
And it was beautiful. We don't even think we've ever been
American
in such
muscle, just whoo. Dang, that thing was pretty. They started us off with a tiny little...
Like a Kia.
Like a little Kia or a Prius or something tiny. And we're just like,
right.
Oh my, that's definitely not going to work. And then they look and he goes, what about that car? Nope, still pretty small. And then he points to a couple of Chargers. He's like, okay, you can have the red or the gray Charger. And we're just like, Charger?
Whatever.
Woo!
Give us any color. I don't care.
Right.
Any color.
So, yeah, we hopped in that Dodge Charger and maybe a little faster than we should have gone, but it was fun. It was a good time.
I think one of the things that had happened on that trip that really scared us both, and we realized, I don't know, I guess when you're traveling, you don't really think, you put responsibilities aside. You still are responsible, but you put responsibilities aside, and you don't really realize that, hey, you are out on your own. Any decision you're making just might kill you.
Right, even just going down a mountain,
Yeah, and that's what had happened. We were...
We were driving through Colorado. We got a heavy Dodge Charger, and anybody who's ever been to Colorado probably realizes this, that Colorado drivers are crazy. They drive insanely fast, especially going downhill. And I don't think that, we were all prepared for that kind of speed.
Also, we didn't shift. We've never driven a sports car kind of thing. I mean, we have our Taurus and a Jeep. So we didn't shift.
To a lower gear.
To a lower gear, basically.
So then, the Charger is probably, hitting in the mid-90s at this point, and we're flying down this mountain.
It was terrifying. It wasn't just like okay. No, it was terrifying. I had a death grip. Now, I don't know how in the world this happened, but we were going down this mountain. The car, it felt like a spaceship. I don't know if you guys seen that, like, little video clips, whatever, but, like, beep, 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 like, those kind of noises. Like, it was coming out of, like, I don't know where. And the car was, like, lighting up. Like, the dashboard was, like, red.
All right, I'm tapping on the brake, and eventually, like, a brake light pops up from, like, my brake getting hot or something. We're just like, oh, gosh. We're just gonna end up having to go into one of those slide things and gravel that the semis will go to if they lose control of their...
It was just terrible. And it was like... And it wasn't going to stop. It wasn't like a slow little mountain. It was curving, and you could see it. And we were going around 90. And, Wyatt's face. And then this is when I knew, like, something was really off. Everything was lighting up. And I thought, why aren't you braking?
I was braking.
Yeah, and that's the problem. His face, there was such fear. And, like, it's out of our control kind of feeling. And I promise you, and this sounds really dramatic, but I felt like everything around me slowed down. That's how panicked I was. And I think my heart, I thought we were going to die. I really did. I thought in that moment when we're going down, if we would have gone off, we would have fallen off completely, like off this little, like down into a mountain hole, like black hole kind of feeling. Like I thought I was going to die. And I could see, Wyatt was shaking. We were both like shaking.
Yeah, when we finally got down to the bottom of the mountain, I think we probably parked for a good half an hour just, thanking the Lords that we were still alive. Because it was terrifying.
We were well. And that's when we realized they're like, oh, man.
We're still rookies at this, road tripping thing at that point.
Right.
And while I don't claim to be, expert drivers of the mountains, I think we've learned a few lessons along the way of, maybe fair or not, we try to kind of avoid Colorado at this current moment. We'll drive straight into...
Well, that's how much fear, that's how much it instilled in me. I was that scared after that trip. I was not that trip, but going down that mountain, I definitely was like, man, I don't want to do that again for a while.
Right.
It was definitely scary and not something I want to do. And you've been traveling Colorado so many times, so for that to happen to you... you grew up going to Colorado every summer with his family and driving through it.
I've probably been to Colorado maybe 8 or 9 times before I even was 18, at least.
He has experience, and that was the biggest thing. And to see him not have that control in that moment, that was just terrifying. So it kind of set the tone for the rest of the trip. We definitely were more cautious. Coming into like a whole like, oh, we're going for a month, woohoo, take your top off. Like that excitement moment was not. It definitely disappeared for a bit, and we realized, hey, we have to be careful.
But I also think it helped us realize, as long as we're together, we can accomplish anything. Sorry, that was a little cheesy.
That was very cheesy, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, that too. I think we did kind of. I put a lot of trust in him when he's driving. I don't drive interstates.
She drives, but very rarely. I think so we've probably gone 30,000 miles driving, in the open roads together. And she's probably driven about 10 of them, 10, 15 of them, maybe.
Minutes, possibly. I don't drive interstate at all. It's not my strong suit.
Yeah, she's more the DJ and the navigator.
I am.
And, sometimes she's good at both, sometimes not so much.
What are you talking about? I am quite well at being a DJ.
Well, agree to disagree on that one.
Possibly. You guys, all of you guys, come in the car with us next time. We will decide, because my DJ skills are off the chain.
Let's say she likes a song. She'll probably play that song 10 times in a row before she's like, okay, I'll change the song.
I get what? I feel the song. I like it till I hate it, right? Isn't that how that goes?
False.
Possibly not.
That's not how it goes. Sometimes, sometimes she'll be like, I gotta play this one again.
In general, traveling together has been such a great experience, and also the accommodation of us sleeping in the car has been a big thing for us. I don't remember when was the first time we decided to sleep in a car.
That happened, remember we drove somewhere, I think we drove to Kansas City one night.
Yeah, possibly.
Kansas City one night, we were meeting up with my family that was already out there. We didn't know where they were at. We decided, I've always heard Walmart has free parking or free, overnight.
That's another thing, actually, and that's an important thing. So us sleeping in the car was something that I've told people, like, oh yeah, and some people take it like, oh man, yeah, that's cool, and some people definitely are like, hey, be careful not to get kidnapped, and that's always in the back of my head, especially when you're staying at rest stops, because we have stayed at rest stops before. But I did find that app or that website that kind of tells you, like, hey, you can park here and you can sleep here for the night because it's no one's land, and you're not going to get the cops called on you.
I think it's like freecamping.com or something.
It's something along those lines. And there's other people that will tell you, like, oh, we found bullets here, so definitely don't stay here. And I was like, probably not. Let's not do that. But there is other sites that people have said, hey, like if you're just staying for the night in your car, it's totally fine. And we've done that many times. And he's 6'4". How we make that work? I mean, we use towels on the windows for safety precaution.
We did. After our first trip, we bought window blinds so we can kind of blind out the windows. So, it keeps it darker, and then people can't, look in on us. But, for the most part, we've used, T-shirts and blankets and towels and anything that you can kind of just use to block out the windows. So people aren't, basically to give yourself the sense of privacy.
Right. We crack a window open, preferably on his side. We crack a window open.
For comfort levels.
Air breathing, right? Not suffocate in there. And basically, we've stayed in so many different places. We knock the chairs back, and we just kind of go to town, really. And we've done that in many different places. There was one time, actually, when we stayed. We didn't realize it was so late at night. And it usually happens when we've been driving kind of, not all day, but enough that we were reaching into night hours where it's 1 o'clock. It's not worth checking into a hotel.
Right.
Or it has happened to us before where you can't check into a hotel because
where everybody's booked or you just don't know where to go.
Right. One time we found it. I don't know where exactly. Maybe it was Arizona. Anyway, we found this little spot. We're like, hey, this is the closest spot. It's 30 miles from us. It's the closest free land we can stay in. There was no rest stops anytime soon. And
it's probably 1, 2 in the morning already. So
right.
We go up this, we'll call it a mountain, but it was probably more of a hill. We went up this little area. We pull into this spot, and they're like, anywhere on the side of the road here is free parking. Free camping, I guess, is more what it is.
Even getting into the spot was kind of difficult. It was rocky. This was the time when we had the Charger, and we were afraid. We're like, let's not break this because it would cost us a leg and a half.
Right. You don't want to bust the...
We don't want to bust
the rental, yeah.
And so getting even into that little spot was just... It was like dirt. It almost felt like a desert, which is why I'm thinking maybe it was Arizona.
Yeah. We ended up, camping out that night. We pulled into this, what we assumed was a camping area. We, blocked the windows,
yeah.
Cracked it up a little bit, laid our chairs back. Probably within a few minutes, we were both asleep.
We were out. We were so tired.
The next morning, we wake up. You can see for a good 10, 15 miles, there's just nothing. But you see another 10 feet, and there's a drop-off.
A cliff. Like this... I'm not talking about a little woohoo jumping through. This was like a woohoo, you're dead kind of jumping.
It's not quite the Grand Canyon, but it was definitely
it was
you wouldn't have wanted to go down it for sure.
No, you wouldn't have. I mean, it was pretty intense, and I was like, I'm so glad we did not, because it was so dark when we pulled up, and when we got and looked and really saw where we were right off, really close to this little cliff to a major hole, basically. I think then we were like, we should be kind of careful of where we're going.
I know, it was...
that was definitely that was a wake-up, in a sense. I was like, oh, man.
At the same time, it was probably the most beautiful thing to wake up to, because there was just land for miles, and you had a nice sunrise coming up. nothing really you can describe it with besides, just gorgeous and just
I mean, it was a
everything was
beautiful
golden.
scenery.
It was great.
I think the biggest thing I get asked is how do you travel as college students? How do you travel on a budget? And to be honest with you, I don't even know how we have it figured out. I think both of us are very simple in general in our lives, really. We don't necessarily spend money on things outside of traveling, just kind of do with bare necessities of what we need through school, and stuff like that. And another thing is just being flexible and sleeping in the car when it comes to it. Or, we were in Malibu at one point driving through, and there was no hotels that were reasonable. I think everything was like 2 and up. At that point, you're reaching a hotel that at 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning or whatever when you actually go to bed, and you're like, is it really worth paying that much amount?
Right. Just,
No.
Getting in at 2 in the morning, waking up and having to be out there by 11.
Sometimes it just doesn't seem worth it, and we're like, let's just either and that's the time we camped at the beach, but it's just, hey, let's just make this happen. Let's be flexible with traveling. And that's really how we travel on a budget, is that we're okay if we need to sleep in the car. We're okay with, making sure we don't we won't get to do every activity, and we understand that. But I think the best, or like the free activity that you can have is enjoying nature, in a sense.
Well, and I think one thing that we, I think, have made a commitment to in our lives is we've prioritized traveling in our lives.
That is true.
So, while it doesn't diminish the rest of our lives, traveling is a lot of times our priority.
Right.
We try to go on 3, maybe 4 trips a year.
We really do try to make it work. This past August, we took a trip down south. We've always gone
West.
Right, west side. And now we took a trip down south, and we hit up and by the way, we hit up a lot of states. That was also kind of surprising. Because we took a month out going west, and we've done that I think 3 consecutive summers. But the amount to get through the places over there, it's so much more difficult compared to going down south, where you can hit up a lot of states in just a shorter period of time.
Right.
Traveling in general has always been a big thing for us. I think we got the traveling bug. I mean, it was something that we've both enjoyed doing, and it gets us out of our space, and it almost feels like it's something that we both developed a great passion for, in a sense, really.
Right. I mean, if you look back at it, we started out in South Dakota on a 3-day trip where literally nothing went right. We ended up completely lost. We ended up with, not really knowing what we're doing. In the rain, no fire, no vision.
Eagle Scout. Okay, you guys, Eagle Scout.
Okay.
Let me remind that. I just want to drop it in there because I laugh about that all the time.
No fire, no vision, no cooking utensils. And then, now some 7 years later, and we just went on this 10-day, I think it was about 10 days, 10, 11 days, driving through the South where we've never visited. And we just, not that we didn't know what we were doing.
We don't really plan for anything. And that's kind of also our motto, is we just kind of go with it. We don't necessarily map out where we're going. We know what states we're going to hit. How we're going to get to them, we don't really know. What we're going to do, we kind of figure out as the day goes. We let the day take us. But we just kind of go with it, and that kind of has been our big thing. Has it really been 6-7 years? I don't think so. I think it's been 5 years.
Not long enough.
Not long enough, right? Oh, man.
Right. So, I mean, if you would put the top 3 things that, we could put on somebody else, what would the 3 things you'd tell somebody who maybe hasn't gone traveling yet or really wants to start traveling, learn from our mistakes? What would be the first thing you would tell them to do?
Don't travel with Wyatt. Just kidding. I think for me, mountain driving does scare me. And I think that really did set fear in me. Make sure you're checking your brakes and your gears. I mean, that's probably my tip for that.
So you're thinking make sure your car is, ready to go and everything is prepared?
Right. I mean, and we even carry I think a toolbox, just little things to obviously get us by if we need to. I know that we carry food. We don't carry a whole grocery set, but we do have some food in case for some reason we get stuck. But you get to some places that are so dark. So, I mean, you could probably get killed and no one will know. For a long time. I mean, it's so dark and secluded. So you have to kind of manage and think, hey, if something does happen, I do have, some food. I do have some food. I have some water. I have a toolbox. Maybe probably a flashlight. What do we carry? A flasher?
I've got an emergency kit that we always have with us. Yeah, it's got tools, anything to like change a tire. We have it's like a GPS machine in case our phones don't have
Oh, the
GPS.
Tron.
To the best of your knowledge, pack everything you can.
Right.
If you don't go prepared, you're going to end up without a tent, no
Light.
fire,
Yeah, right.
no cooking
I don't know
utensils.
about that one because the person next to us did have a great fire, hefty fire. So I don't know. You might have a fire. But yeah, no cooking utensils, prepare yourselves because I think that's the biggest thing. Even though we don't plan or prepare for anything, we do make sure that we have like those kind of things, emergency things.
And I think we don't plan, but we do prepare.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I like that. I never thought about that. We don't plan at all.
We don't plan, but we prepare.
Hopefully, if you're ever traveling, road tripping, or if you're taking a couple months out driving, definitely have that in mind and understand your car. Because we didn't understand the Charger. We've never driven such a beautiful car. And we didn't know it. So really understand if you're driving through mountains, understand the gears and when to switch. Because you don't think about that. And then you're driving 90 something.
90-something down a mountain, not really knowing if you're going to end up alive or just end up in a ditch. All right, so like for the second tip, I think the next tip I would give is don't necessarily map out your whole trip.
Right.
If
Okay,
you
good.
if you completely lock down your trip and you're doing this, and this, it a lot of times can feel like you're just like following like an instruction manual.
Now, here's what there's something to be said with that. I do have friends that say, Carla, I don't know how you can do it, where you don't know where you're staying the night, where you're just driving to drive. I don't know how you can do that. There are people out there that need some sort of structure, but I think what we're trying to say is, if you are one of those people that needs structure and says, hey, I kind of need to know where I'm staying and all that kind of stuff, that's good. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think what is to be said is, hey, don't be okay if something doesn't go to plan. Be okay with, hey, seeing something on the street and be like, hey, I want to do that. Let's, forget doing this. Let's do this. Being flexible with your schedule, I think, is really important when you're traveling.
Right, I agree. Because if you never know if something goes wrong or something could go right.
Right.
We've had trips where we've had to pause it midway just to go and we've had to deal with some family stuff at some points. But I mean, always be flexible. I think is the lesson I would learn, the lesson I would teach.
Yeah. It's just being flexible because you never know where experiences can happen. I think some of our best experiences come from being flexible. That also goes with understanding that you are okay sleeping in your car if it calls to it. I mean, one day we woke up next to the Golden Gate Bridge. You remember that? And I mean, we woke up next to that because that was a little free land strip that you can stay at, and we stayed in the car. And that was a scene to remember. So just being flexible in that sense, but also in, hey, something doesn't pan out, it's going to be all right. There's going to be so much more other things that can happen, or take an opportunity when you see it, because you don't know what opportunities are coming.
Right. If you're driving down the street and you say you want to go see, the world's largest ball of stamps.
Is that a thing?
It's here in Omaha.
America is great.
You want to go see out in Alliance, Nebraska? Go stop and go see car henges out in Alliance, Nebraska.
We did do that. I didn't think that was, sometimes when you think about Nebraska, you're like, oh, Nebraska. But there is about it, but it's just like stacked cars. My take, stacked cars.
It's like Stonehenge, but with cars. It's great. Yeah, so I mean, make sure you're being flexible and keeping your options open. I think that our biggest tip that we can give you is to find somebody that you can travel with. Without having that person you can travel with, it could be a lot more miserable.
Whenever you travel with someone and you're traveling for a longer time, you learn about them, the good, the bad, in a very brute way. I think for some reason, because we care about each other, really, we've made it work well. We know our tics. We know when to not get on each other's faces. I know when to turn off the music. When I've heard it 32 times, I know, okay, he's not
33 times is one too many.
I know when to do that. I think it's cool to travel with different people. You learn about them in a different way, and you get to experience it, essentially, or a different culture. But I think picking your travel partner is important. I've traveled with other people, and I had experiences where it made the trip. It does make it or break it. Where it did break the trip in a sense. I definitely did question, hey, is it the place that I don't like, or is it just who I'm traveling with?
Right. I think if you find the right person to travel with, it makes your journeys so much easier. If you're traveling with the wrong person, losing tent poles or going down a mountain at 90, 100 miles an hour
Not a fan.
can typically end your trip right then and there.
Right.
If you travel with the right person, even when things go bad, you can feel comfortable to...
Have hiccups and then get over them, really.
Right.
Like, move on from them.
Your trip doesn't end right then and there.
Right. We've been very fortunate that we're very simple in a sense. We enjoy nature. We enjoy doing things. We're both beach lovers. And we've been able to travel together comfortably. And I look forward to all the other travels.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this journey takes us.
Preferably not dead, right? Preferably with tent poles and a warm fire and food. That's what I hope all the time. So.
Maybe some glasses for the next time.
Okay. I do have a backup pair now.
Thank you for joining us for our first edition of our podcast. Hope to talk to you guys soon.
Later, Gators.
Peace out.
Thanks for listening to Come Trip with us.
I hope you enjoyed the direction we went today.
Safe travels.
See you soon.